Good afternoon, everyone. This is Gail Lloyd. It is August 12th, Monday, 2019, and I've decided I'm going to, thanking Barbara Kingslover, continue reading where I left off yesterday in this amazing historical novel, The Lacuna. So here goes, from page 107. July 29th. It's all in the newspapers today. Bullseye sat reading on his bed without a word, handing the papers over when he finished reading each part. Gallagher Hospital filled to overflowing with the casualties. Any bonus marchers who made it to the 11th Street Bridge joined the ones at the riverbank encampment. Stopping reading for a moment. For those of you who didn't listen to the earlier reading, this has to do with what took place to the veterans who had returned from World War I after great cost to themselves. The government didn't see fit to pay their pensions, and so many veterans were left destitute and homeless, and they didn't know what to do, and so they started this camp near the White House along the river, and it eventually expanded up Pennsylvania Avenue. And there were the United States Army that they had served in, but they formed what were called bonus marchers, and I'm not sure if they were even paid or not. They might have just done that amongst the encampment to create order and make sure that food was distributed as best it could, and then they were given orders to destroy these warehouses to put up temples, and I don't know what kind of temples. She doesn't mention it, but these warehouses were shelters for their impoverished and homeless families, and the president ordered them to destroy their own makeshift homes. And that's where a resistance started, and the bonus marchers tried to defend their homes. The president started sending artillery, and a massacre ensued. And so what I'm reading to you now is the aftermath. So going back to reading, Gallagher Hospital filled to overflowing with casualties. Any bonus marchers who made it to the 11th Street Bridge joined the ones at the riverbank encampment. Mr. Hoover sent orders for troops to stop at the bridge, but MacArthur couldn't be bothered with new orders, so he mounted machine guns on the bridge and led a column of infantry across the Potomac into the encampment. They set flaming torches to the canvas and pasteboard homes, exactly as Cortez said, much grieved to burn up the people, but since it was all still more grievous to them, he determined to do it. It was shameful to read those newspapers, to feel any eagerness for knowing each awful detail of the massacre, how the artillery marched right over the camp on the riverbank, destroying the hobo jungle of fruit crates, chicken coops, tar paper shacks, and dirt-colored tents. God bless our home. Families must have been kneeling in there, praying for any miracle a tight-fisted God might have left for them. The bonus army families had crops planted in their camp. Every Saturday this summer, Bullseye had pointed those out, how he cheered for the measly corn rows sprouting by the Potomac. They made the encampment look like Mexico, a real village where people might live and eat. Hungry kids were waiting for those almost ready ears after months of porridge, sweet corn roasted in the coals. To think of MacArthur's horses trampling it on purpose, somehow that small part of the story made tears come. Bullseye never came to bed after lights out. He turned up hiding in the infirmary, sitting hunched on the side of a bed, smoking, with more newspapers. Look at this, he threw it. The penalty for prowling around after lights out. I'm stopping reading right now. Bullseye and the protagonist, who's the voice recording this, are both used that because of their impoverished family circumstances got placed in this military-style boarding school, which was almost more like a prison. And they became friends because they were the only two boys that didn't have a home to go to in the summer. And the massacre occurred at the last day of summer before school was to resume. Okay, back to reading. The penalty for prowling around after lights out is severe, but the infirmary was deserted. The late extra. After sunset yesterday, the flames in the Anacostia encampment rose 50 feet in the air and spread to the surrounding woods. 6 companies of firemen were required to defend adjacent property. The president observed from the White House windows an unusual glow in the eastern sky and conceded MacArthur was right to proceed with the routing. In his opinion, the bonus army consists of communists and persons with criminal records. The editorial writer applauded MacArthur for sparing the public treasury. The nation is being bled dry by persons like these who offend the common decency. Why wouldn't the paper say they're criminals? Or why would the paper say they're criminals? They were treated like criminals, Bullseye replied, so people want to think it. The paper says whatever they want. It was no use reading more, but hard to stop. The late extra had photos, a society page. While soldiers poured gasoline on the shacks, the upper crust were cruising the river on their yachts, watching MacArthur spare the public treasury. A Mrs. Harcourt required medical attention after she saw a small boy receive a bayonet through his lower body. Senator Hiram Bingham of Connecticut was badly jostled on the street in front of the warehouse while attempting to leave his office. His injuries were not mortal, but earned as many newspaper inches as all the others together, including a woman in the Anacostia camp who lost her sight to flaming gasoline thrown in her face. And the vets from the Argonne shot dead in their own country. A dozen kids got shattered limbs or broken skulls. 2 infants died of inhaling gas. Was one of them Nick's baby, do you think? Bullseye kept his head turned away. For Christ's sake, he said, a gas bomb costs more than 100 loaves of bread. I'll stop there.